Today, I spent 5 hours making a pot roast to make what I now believe is one of the best sandwiches ever, and that is a pot roast sandwich with the homemade fresh coleslaw that we made just the other day. All that piled high in a buttery, toasted sesame roll. The first thing we got to do, of course, is make our pot roast. Here I got a chuck roast. Now we're going to season our meat generously on all sides with some kosher salt. Then we're going to place our meat on a rack and let it rest for about 20 to 30 minutes. And we'll take that valuable time while our meat is resting to prepare everything else. We're going to start with our vegetables. You can use either an onion or a shallot. I'm going to go with a sweet yellow onion today. That's just how I'm feeling. And because this is going to cook for such a long time, that onion is just going to get a simple rough chop. Along with the onions, we're doing a couple ribs of celery, washed, dried, and trimmed, and those are going to get a simple rough chop as well. And lastly, some carrots. Now, I love the carrots in this, so I'm going to do about 3 medium carrots. If you don't like carrots, just do a couple less carrots or no carrots at all. And of course, we're going to start by peeling each carrot. Once those are all peeled, bring them over to the sink, give them a quick wash, then dry them. Then I like to give those tops a quick trim. And for the carrots, I couldn't make up my mind what shape I wanted to cut them in, so I thought I'd do something I never did before, so I cut them into obliques. And although I haven't exactly mastered this technique yet, what you do is you cut your carrot on an angle, then you turn your carrot, and then you cut it again on the angle and the cut that you just made, if that makes any sense. And what you're left with are these cool little oblique shapes. The only thing left to prep is some garlic. Now, I like a lot of garlic, so I'm going to use about 3 cloves of garlic. By the way, the full recipe, ingredients, amounts will be in the description below. Now back to our meat. After about 20 minutes of resting with that salt, your meat should have quite a bit of moisture on top. We're going to grab some paper towels and pat that dry. Over at the stove, I got my trusty dusty Dutch oven. We're going to let that preheat over medium heat. Once that's hot, we're going to add about 2 tablespoons of olive oil and let that heat up. Once that oil starts to shimmer, we're going to place our meat in. I'm going to start by searing the fat side on my meat. After a few minutes on that fat side, I'm going to put the steak down, and this is going to cook. This is a big piece of meat, so this is going to cook for about 6 minutes per side. And here's what I'm going to do. After our meat has cooked the first 3 minutes, I'm going to rotate that meat about 90 degrees and let it cook for the other 3 minutes. And that is going to ensure that your meat cooks evenly and it gets that beautiful, nice crust that we all want. Flip your meat and then put it down on the other side for another 6 minutes. After that 6 minutes, remove your meat and then go let it rest on the counter until we're ready to use it. While your meat is resting, we're going to throw in about 2 tablespoons of salted butter back into our pan. Once your butter is melted, our vegetables go in, a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper. Give that a stir, and we're going to cook this for about 5 minutes until those vegetables start to soften. Don't forget to scrape up all those little bits on the bottom if you can. Crush in your garlic cloves and then cook that for about a minute. Then we're going to drop in some tomato paste, stir that in, then cook that up for about a few minutes. Then we're going to add in our all-purpose flour. Again, check the description for the full amounts of ingredients. Stir that in, and then yet again, cook that for about 1 to 2 minutes. Then we're going to add some red wine and deglaze. And again, if you didn't scrape up before, this is where you can get all those little tasty bits off the bottom of the pan now. Then we're adding some Worcestershire sauce and our 4 cups of beef broth. Give that a good mix. Bring this to a simmer, and then we're going to simmer this for about 5 minutes. After that, add back in your meat. And don't forget to add any juices that were left on that plate. And we're also adding some fresh thyme and a few bay leaves. Cover this loosely with a lid, and then that is going into a preheated 275-degree oven for about 5 hours. It's been about 5 hours. Now, one thing you want to do before we cut into this meat is let it sit in the juices in the pot for about 30 minutes. Do not touch it. After 30 minutes, we're going to remove that meat to a bowl so we can shred it up. And don't forget to remove those thyme leaves and those bay leaves. Then we're going to shred that meat up, and I'll be honest, I thought we might need 2 forks, but we don't need 2 forks. 1 fork would do it. That meat is super tender. We're gonna take some of that gravy from the pot, add it back to the meat, mix the meat up in that delicious juice. All right, now it's time. Let's start making our sandwich. For the roll, I decided to go with a sesame roll. We're gonna cut that thing up. And I'm gonna bring our roll over to the stove, get some butter, and toast that thing up. We got our toasted roll over some parchment paper. And we're going down with a generous amount of that pot roast meat and all that juice and gravy. Then we're also topping it with some coleslaw that we made the other day. If you want to check out the coleslaw recipe, I'll leave it in the description. You can check that out. It was awesome. And that, my friends, is our pot roast sandwich with the coleslaw. And that is probably one of the best sandwiches I ever made. I'm talking taste and I'm talking looks. And then I'm going to attempt to wrap this up. Now keep in mind, I've never wrapped anything. I never worked in a deli, so I know I'm going to get roasted for my wrapping skills in the comments. So be it, I deserve it. Cut that thing up and let's check out the crust section. This thing looks amazing, but how does it taste? I definitely hit a spot. I had a spot and I hit it. That's bomb. And the pot roast itself. That's insanely good. Without a doubt, that's hitting. That's good. Ooh.